All right, so yesterday the problems we worked, we were finding h of g of a number, right? We were finding h of g of, say, 2 or h of g of 7. But today it's asking you to just find h of g of x. So there's no number to plug in. So what they're basically saying is take g and stick it in for what? Into h. You see how g of x is inside h of x? That's called composing functions. We're going to compose functions without a number. So this is in terms of x, right? And so I'm going to take g, let me circle g, what g is. I'm going to take this, right? Because that's g. See right here it says g of x is all this in the blue. And I'm going to put every bit of this that's circled in blue in for x right here. All right? So I'm going to say, and I want you to write it with me. I've got h of g of x equals. And remember, everything I have circled right here for g, I'm just going to plug it in for x right there. So I've got 3 times, and then everything that g of x is. What is g of x? 4x minus 2 plus, and then, so I got 3, and then 4x minus 2 plus 1. Plus 1 right there. And so I write h of g of x equals, and now I've got to distribute this 3, don't I? And so I've got 12x minus 6 plus 1. And now I'm going to combine like terms. Negative 6 and positive 1 will go together. So I say h of g of x equals 12x minus 5. And so there's my answer right there. And that's my answer because it asked me to compose the function with respect to x. So remember, it didn't ask me for h of g of 2, did it? It didn't ask me for h of g of 2. It asked me for h of g of what? X. Okay? All right, so now we're going to step it up and make it a little harder. This is asking us to do the same thing, but these are a little more difficult functions because this one is the cubed root. All right? So here it says find f of h of x. So that's telling me to put h of x into f of x, isn't it? All right? So I got to go say, all right, well, where is h of x? H of x is this right here. So y'all circle your h of x. And then I want you to draw an arrow from what you circled and point it to x on f of x. And that's where you're going to put all of that. Okay? Now, if you don't understand how I got that step, you're welcome to raise your hand. It's okay. But what I want you to see is for me to have gotten here, I just took everything in this red box and put it in for x. And then you see that's what this is. Instead of x right here, I got everything that's in that red box. Y'all see that moving right there? That must be something above the...
That's how Bulldog.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not on my screen. But it's that number 2 Bulldog there. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Okay, so all we want to do at this point is simplify this. And so you'll see right here, I'm taking the cubed root, but I'm also what? Cubing it. Well, those are opposites of each other, so what that does is just make both those go away. So the cube root goes away and the cube goes away. And so I have f of h of x equals just 2x minus 15 minus 6. Because remember, the cube root, which is this little 3 here, and the little check mark meaning cube root, goes away because I'm cubing it. Those are opposites of each other. And so all I'm left with is 2x minus 15 minus 6. I can combine negative 15 and negative 6. And so my answer I'm going to put in the box is 2x minus 21. And so what we just did there is we composed h into what? F. We composed h of x into f of x. All right, so here's us another example. And I want to remind you that when it says fog x like this, that means f of g of x like this. So that's basically saying circle g and put it inside what? F. So I'm going to circle g, there's g, and I'm going to put it in for x everywhere in f I see an x. So I'm going to put it in right there, and I'm going to put it in right there. Okay? So when you have the g inside like this, it's saying circle it and stick it inside f. So here we go. So I've got f of g of x equals 2 minus, and then everything that g of x is, 18 minus 3x. And on bottom, I've got 18 minus 3x plus 1. And so now, at this point, it's all about you just simplifying it correctly. Okay? So the first thing I got to do is take this negative and distribute it into the parentheses. Okay? So when I do that, I have f of g of x equals 2 minus 18 plus 3x all over 18 minus 3x plus 1. And then my last step is just to combine like terms. Okay? So I can see that 2 minus 18 are terms that are like, and 18 and positive 1 are like terms. So I've got f of g of x equals 2 minus 18 is negative 16, so I'm going to go 3x minus 16. Because I like to always write the variable first. If you did negative 16 plus 3x, you're okay, but we like to write the variable first. Over negative 3x plus 19. And what I would say is that won't reduce anymore, so there's your answer right there. F of g of x. So right here, the question was asked, I thought you could divide this 3 and this 3. You can't. Here's the thing. When I have two terms on top and two terms on bottom, I can only divide what goes into both terms. 3 goes into this 3x, but 3 doesn't go into 16. So I can't extract a 3 out there to divide, right? So it's like when your parents give you allowance, they don't just give it to you and not your sibling. When we divide terms from the top and bottom, you can only divide what both terms have on top and on bottom. This has a 3, but this doesn't. So I can't divide the 3's.